So, Throne and Liberty's been playable in early access for a few days now, and the full free-to-play release is on October 1st. I've been playing since the start of early access, I've been max level for a few days now, wrapped my head around most of the core gameplay systems, and overall, I'm having an okay time with the game. I'll make a more in-depth video on my thoughts next week once I've put a bit more time into it. But in this video, I want to talk about my experiences so far as a new player, and also give a bit of a warning to other new players jumping into the game on October 1st, as this game's progression system seems to be designed to completely fuck you if you haven't played the game before, if you haven't spent a lot of time researching the progression, and most importantly, if you haven't decided 100% on what weapon combo and build you want to play. If there was ever an MMO to watch one of those 10 mistakes to avoid as a new player videos, it would be for this game. So let's start with the number one most important thing, and I cannot emphasize this enough. Going into Throne and Liberty, even if you've never played the game before, you need to research what build you're gonna play, or at the very least, try out each of the weapons early in the game, and have this decision locked in before level 20. I watched a lot of content prior to the release of this game in preparation, and every video was saying the same thing: know what weapon combo you want to play. As a new player, this is not an easy decision to make, because you don't get a full feel for your build until level 50 with all your abilities. Some weapon combos also look really cool in YouTube videos but feel clunky as hell to play, so some of you might get to level 50, decide you're not enjoying your weapon combo, and want to switch only to realise that you're going to be massively set back. On the surface, going in blind, you might assume that because the game doesn't have classes and your class is basically whatever weapon you have equipped, it might be somewhat similar to New World, where it's really easy to change your role. It isn't. In fact, I have never played an MMO that's designed in a way where you basically need to be following a build guide from the start. Let me explain why changing your weapon combo is such a pain in the ass in this game. First of all, you've got the weapon mastery system. This is basically an additional talent tree specific to your weapons. You gain weapon mastery for just using your weapons. Let's say you play TL for 1 month using the same 2 weapons. Then you decide you want to re-roll. You're then going to be significantly weaker with the new weapons because the masteries will be level 1. Weapon mastery takes quite a long time to progress, so having to start again feels like a huge setback, and probably the main deterrent for changing builds, especially the further you progress in the game. Second, you've got the skill leveling system. In Throne, you level up your skills using skill books to make them more powerful. You'll get tons of these books from progressing the MSQ, doing exploration quests and one-off content rewards. Once you've obtained and spent all these skill books, they'll then become a bit harder to come by. Instead, you'll obtain them mostly through daily content such as contracts and open world dungeon farming. If you decide to change weapons, you'll need to either level up a fresh set of skills from level 1 without the massive influx of books that you get from the MSQ, or you'll need to use skill transfer scrolls which can be obtained via the battle pass currency. You might actually have a bunch of skill transfer skills just from level up rewards, so transferring skills might not be a big deal if you only change weapons once, but once you've used them they seem quite hard to come by. Finally, you've got the gearing. In this game you'll get gear starting at grey rarity, then green, blue and purple. If you level up a piece of green gear to +6, then get a piece of blue gear drop, you don't need to separately level up the blue gear. You can simply transfer the green gear +6 into the blue, making it +3, so there's no reason not to be constantly pumping your resources into gear. The same can be said going from blue to purple. A +9 blue can be fed into purple gear, making it +6. That being said, when you transfer gear, you do lose the gear you're transferring from, so if you want to play 2 different weapon combos with 2 different gear sets, you're going to need to level multiple sets of gear, which is probably something you should only do if you've already maxed out one build already, otherwise you'll be weak compared to everyone else. Don't make the mistake of flirting with the idea of re-rolling, transferring all of your gear over to something else, then changing your mind wanting to switch back. You'd have lost the original gear. Other than that, one mistake I could see new players make is wasting their daily contract rights on low-level contracts, aka the yellow quests. At around level 12, you'll go talk to a contract manager and need to do 4 contracts as part of the MSQ. You're limited on how many contracts you can do per day, and the rewards for high-level contracts are much better than low-level. So do the 4 contracts for the MSQ, then don't do any more until you hit level 50. Also, when doing contracts, you want to accept 1, refresh, match, then accept another until you get a contract pop up with an epic reward. You don't need to accept all of the contracts displayed. Another tip I have is that the default gameplay control settings for this game are kinda bad, and there's some things you're going to want to change to make it feel less clunky. Go to Settings, Gameplay Controls, and enable Q skills, toggle basic attack, toggle charge skills, and toggle aimed skills. I also recommend enabling auto target nearest enemy when attacking without a target. This is especially useful when you're AoE farming mobs, so you don't have to tab every time one of them dies. The final thing you should not do as a new player is dissolve your random green or blue gear, as TL has this really confusing trait system as part of its gear progression, where you can use other pieces of gear to put traits on others to increase the traits. It's quite confusing to explain, so all I'll say is don't throw away your gear, chuck it in the bank, and it might be useful later when you dive deeper into the trait system. But those are the main things I wanted to warn you about in this video. As much as I've had a decent time during the early access launch of this game, I'm kinda surprised by how many pitfalls there are for new players to completely screw up their character if they go in blind without any prior research. That being said, Throne and Liberty is probably the biggest MMO release we'll have for quite some time, so give it a try, enjoy the honeymoon phase, enjoy the absolutely gorgeous starting zones being packed full of players, and try to check out some of the endgame dungeons because so far I've found them to be surprisingly cool. As for my overall thoughts on the game so far after a few days at max level, there's a solid mix of things I really like and really dislike about this game, but we'll get into that in a future video. Until then, let me know your thoughts on Throne and Liberty in the comments below. I hope you enjoy the launch of the game, and I'll see you in the next one.